Hello! In this tutorial we are going to be talking about getting a drawing from a scan, in this particular circumstance from this yellowy, slightly grayish color, to be black and white and fully grayscale. So all we're going to be doing is taking this image, putting it into grayscale mode, and we're going to be using our levels or curves tool to change the rest of the color from this kind of duller gray to full-on white. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that it's grayscale, and before we do any of these things we can always check to make sure that we can start editing and messing with our document by looking at the layer down here and making sure there's no padlock or anything over to the side. Now I'm starting this after the end of another tutorial that I just did, so I'm already there, but if not, you can go ahead and uncheck a padlock if it appears right there. But to change to grayscale, all we have to do is come up to Image, come down to Mode, and then click on Grayscale. You'll get a little dialog box that comes up. Just hit Discard on this. It's basically getting rid of any of the color information. You can see it's now slightly grayer. Now the more important thing that we're doing today is making sure that we get this background to be truly white. As you can see, it's kind of grayish between this color and this color. We want it to be closer to this. The tool that we're going to use for this is going to be the Curves tool, which is over in the Adjustments panel on the right side of your screen. You can also use the Levels panel. I'll click on that first so that you can see what that looks like. It's this type of dialog. You'll see this little spike up next to the white over here with these three eyedroppers. These are the most important thing about this tutorial today, is these eyedroppers over the side to set our white and black points. This would work, however I like using the Curves tool because it gives me a little bit finer control whenever it comes to making decisions about how light or dark things should be. So we're just going to go ahead and delete this layer. You'll see down here that after I click that, I now have something that says Levels 1. This is what they call an adjustment layer. You'll see that it has the symbol of the adjustment layer here, as well as what is known as the mask or alpha channel. Don't worry about what that is right now. Just know that because it's all white, it's applying to everything on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, right click, and come up to Delete Layer. It will ask me if I'm sure I want to, and I say yes. And the tool that I'm using is this Curves tool right here in the middle in the Adjustments panel. So I'm going to click that. And you'll notice that this also has like a white and black bar and then a spike up top here. So it's basically giving us the same information. This is just telling you how much of each different type of value is in the drawing. There's a lot more on the light end. As you can see, most of the drawing is whitish or light gray, and then there's a little bit of the different grays and the blacks. So what we want to do is tell it where we believe white to be. So if I zoom in, we'll get a better view of this. As you can see, there's these bands that are here from the scanner that those scanned on. What we want to do is make sure that the darkest segment of one of these bands shows up as white. So I'm going to zoom in even further, using Control plus to zoom and Control minus to zoom out as needed. And this area's got a small dark band on it. So what I want to do is tell it that that point is white. This is called setting the white point. If I bring my cursor up over this eyedropper, you'll see that it says Sample and Image to set white point. Go ahead and just click this. You'll get a little eyedropper as your cursor icon. Set the tip of it over the area that you want. This little dark splotch right here seems right. And then select it. And you'll notice that most of your image is turned white. You'll also notice that this little node right down here has moved over to the right a little bit. What it's done is it's said that everything to the left of this little marker should be treated just like white. If I go ahead and zoom out, you'll notice that this now appears to be the same up here, and that we can see pretty much all of our line work. That's important because you can select something that is just a little bit too dark and set it as white and start losing some of this. We start getting close right here at the beginning of this line and this line as they come out of the coast. And we're losing a little bit of information right here for the cracks in the sidewalk, for the little bit of extra information that the sitemap has. However, everything is still easily visible and legible, so this should be fine. Next, what we want to do is set a certain line to be black. This is really helpful if you draw lightly or if your scan comes out a little too light in general. This one is pretty good. As you can see, we've got a line right here that's really dark. We can go ahead and select that as the black point though by using the same tools up here, but it's this little black eyedropper. If you click on that and you select something here, it should change the color to be a little black. You'll notice that I just clicked, but it did not change this much at all. If I select another point, it will set the black point there. We're going to try this lighter gray line here. And you'll notice that all the line work got proportionally darker, and that this node moved much further to the left. If I zoom out, you can see that there's a lot of things here that are much darker. Now, this becomes a matter of taste to some degree, but be aware that by doing this, you're limiting the range of tones that you'll have, and you're increasing the difference between more lines that may be similar. In this circumstance, the line that I selected probably didn't need to be changed all the way to black, so I'm going to go ahead and just manually move this node up here, and you can see it changes a little bit more dynamically and kind of gives you an idea of what this graph is really doing to the drawing. I'm going to actually set it right over here. This has an appropriate amount of black. These are reading very well. The outlines are reading pretty clearly. But there's a good amount of value change here that still makes the drawing really legible. So now all we want to do is make sure that our drawing is one solid layer, and as we were saying before, this kind of creates more than one layer. In order to make this one, there's a couple of things we can do. Generally, the best option is to use the command flatten image. If I right click on any of the layers, you'll notice that flatten image comes up right about here in the middle of this long dialog. You can also come up to layer and then come all the way down to flatten image, and that will do the same thing. There is also one here called Merge Visible, which is really useful if you have layers that you have hidden and you don't want to flatten them, and you want to still be able to edit with them. So if you're in the middle of a drawing and you're realizing that you need to do this line tutorial, you can hide your other layers, do exactly what we've done here, and then Merge Visible instead if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and flatten image though, because it returns us back to kind of a baseline, where you see that there's no transparencies on the side. That little checkerboard on the edge is how Photoshop recognizes transparencies. That's gone. And here it says that we're both at background and it's locked. So this kind of starts us over at the beginning, just with a better oriented and better color and value optimized drawing. I'm going to go ahead and click this little arrow because I don't need the properties dialog open. The only thing left to do on this would be to make sure that it's the right size, or at least we're not including extra information. You can see that there's still some information from the scan here that's showing as a darker value, and then up here as well. So all we want to do is use our crop tool to select the center of the image and get rid of any extra information. The crop tool is this one right over here. If I go and click that, you'll notice that I now have some handles on the side, similar to how we had the auto transform tools. And we can just drag these. And you'll notice that it gets darker outside of the bounds here. That's the information we're getting rid of. And if I scroll down, I can grab these from bottom also. And depending on how you've drawn this or how you've set up your guidelines, you can make these margins more exact and equidistant. You can also use the measuring tool at certain points if you need to crop it again. For what we're doing, this is close enough. So we're just going to go ahead and let this be here, and I'm just going to hit enter in order to make the changes. As you can see, we now just have this drawing. One thing that we also have is this guideline down here. When we save the image, it will not show up, but in case you want to see without it, we're going to come up to View and Clear Guides. just to get rid of that line. But it looks like the bulk of our drawing here is done, and it's ready to be colorized, both to render it out a little bit and to put shadows and give it a little bit more information. So from this point, just feel free to save it. If you are worried about losing information at this point, it's a good time to save something as a new file, because then you can just have both. And just make sure that as you're going along, you're saving so that you don't lose any work as you're doing it. This process should take 5 to 10 minutes max, so it's a really fast way to go through this, and as you do this more, it may even take less time. Thank you, and I hope that helps.